This is Charles in Fort Worth. Charles, are you there?
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
How is it going, Charles?
Do you remember me? I called you back a while back when we had like that pagan show. It's like all the pagans called in.
Yes, I have. This is the most interesting description ever. I'm going to go ahead and read what the call screener typed here. They said, discovered the goddess of the United States called Columbia and has to do more research to find out if she's real.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that. What is that?
Man, this is like, I just figured this out recently. Have you ever heard of a poet named Phyllis Whitney?
Phyllis Whitney. I'm not sure if I have. Have you, Bart?
No.
Okay, let's start with her first. She was a black slave during the Revolutionary War, and she wrote, and her slave owners taught her ancient Latin, Greek, and pretty much that all that ancient pagan language and writing. Mm-hmm. And she was a slave. And what she did is she wrote poetry during the Revolutionary War about a goddess named Columbia, and it inspired the Revolutionary War to keep on fighting. And she became the symbolization of what was to be America. Isn't that pretty awesome? And liberty.
Huh. Okay. So this poet
She was a poet. She was a poet who, in a sense, anthropomorphized her dream of a great country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
And when we won our independence, and during the Revolutionary War, George Washington invited her as a slave to the Capitol and granted her independence because her poetry and the goddess Columbia inspired him so much to keep on fighting.
So
all right, tell me her name again so that we can all Google this and learn more. What's her name?
Goddess Columbia is what it is.
Columbia is called the goddess of the United States, Columbia.
Who's the poet?
And the poet was Phyllis Whitney.
Phyllis Whitney.
I got you.
So,
Phillis, and her last name is Wheatley.
Okay, so Charles, I gotta ask you: is your belief right now that Columbia actually exists as a deity somewhere, and we're not just talking about metaphors?
No.
That I would have to read more on. But due to her poetry, a lot, if you really look at it, like in Washington and stuff, a lot of the buildings, like even the United States Capitol, she's on the very top, the goddess Columbia. And a lot of the other buildings in Washington have that Greek structure about them. Mm-hmm. And that's on purpose.
So, Charles, is there a question in here somewhere?
No, I just wanted to enlighten y'all with this information I learned. I mean, because I think it's a fascinating story.
Well, I want to okay, so like you're agnostic on the subject as to whether or not Columbia actually exists as.
Yeah, I am pagan, but I do not know if Columbia is a real deity, a real goddess. Mm-hmm. But I find that this goddess in this poetry, liberating a people to fight for the country that became the United States is awesome.
So, Charles, can I ask you, what's the method you would use to discover whether or not this goddess was real?
I would just have to do more research.
What does that mean? Like, what does research look like? Like, do you look at a book and the book says that this goddess is real, or like, how does that work?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, and if they are pagans that worship the goddess Columbia, are they really patriotic pagans then? Because like we call like a normal American that believes in the Constitution and what America stands for is a patriot. They believe in the country. They believe in everything we stand for. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that because I'm straight up, even though I'm a pagan, I'm straight up patriot. I straight up believe in the Constitution and everything that we believe in.
Mm. Well, okay, so this is it. We have a few other callers, and I don't know if this is really Bart's forte.
No,
Charles.
What about the information and
Oh, no.
Just look more into it yourself, too.
I'm saying it's fantastic that you're calling about this, but I want to know, maybe next time when you call in, and not next week, because next week we're not going to be doing a live show here. We're going to be pulling up one of the older episodes because I'll be at Faithless Forum. But Charles, I'm curious if you can do some research and then maybe call in again and then talk about what your method was and how you figured out that Columbia was a real goddess. If you came to that conclusion.
What gets me, though, is like how people they worship like Freya and Isis and all these other female goddesses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't really hear about Columbia, and what they say in history is she was replaced by Uncle Sam, and that's why you don't hear about her no more, and then that's where it gets really interesting, where it's kind of like she got replaced by Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I definitely want to have a conversation with you sometime about what methods you're using and how you're figuring out whether or not this goddess is real, like what that whole research process looks like. But unfortunately, we are on a limited time episode today. But Charles, I do encourage you to call back again and then email me too if you want, or talk to the people on the Discord, because like this is the kind of stuff I love talking about on Truth Wanted, how people come to these different kinds of conclusions. Does that sound good to you, Charles?
Most definitely. You said not next week, but the week after?
Not next week, because next week I'm going to be at Faithless Forum, but the week after that, for sure.
Oh, okay. That gives me plenty of time to do some more research, because I wanted to learn more about the poet too. Because there's just so much going on there that's interesting.
There is a lot going on, and I'd be curious to hear about it. But we're going to go on to some other callers. Thank you so much, Charles, for calling in, and I'm looking forward to hearing you call back.
All right, I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. What'd you think of that, Bart? You talk to a lot of pagans. We get some pagan callers on here sometimes.
You know, I only very occasionally. You know, it's interesting. There's a wonderful woman who I met a few years ago in San Antonio. She runs a thing called the Star, which is a kind of a community there of secular folks. And they run a humanist service on Sunday mornings out at the Lackland Air Force Base. And it's the most popular service on the base. She has 1,500 cadets who show up every Sunday to kind of talk humanism with her. Mm-hmm. And they do just a great job. And she makes it so that she makes the invitation. It's just the funnest service of them all. And so some of the Christian kids come, some of the pagans come, people. And at the beginning, she has people, you know, she has as many different people as she'll say, how many Christians are here? And they'll all cheer. How many humans are here? And then she goes, how many pagans are here? And you know, there'll be like 5 of them and 3 of them. And she covers the whole map. And so that's the place where I think I've encountered the most pagans of my life, is just at this service where she kind of calls them out. And it's a beautiful thing, man, to watch people who are trying to figure out how to make sense of this life. And they're coming at it from so many different angles. And I think that, you know, my job one of the things I initially took with me when I left Christianity was, in Christianity, I was convinced there was one true way to be a good person. And when I first left and became a humanist, I was trying to figure out the one true way to be a secular good person. And it took me a while to realize, I'm still a fundamentalist. And it took me a long time to figure out, you know what, there are a lot of different ways to make the most of this life. There are a lot of different ways to pursue meaning and value. And my job isn't to convince everybody that mine is the way. My job is to try to, to aim to convince the people that are convincible, or maybe even just to look for people whose way isn't working out for them and say, well, if your way isn't working out for you, you might want to try this way. But sometimes I meet people who are thriving in hardcore religion, but it's making them more loving and more kind, and it's creating form. And I'm not as prone as some people are to talk them out of it, because I'm not so sure that they'll be able to find the same level of support and community on the outside. Until we build some really wonderful humanist communities, I'm not sure it's a better deal for everybody, especially if you're somebody who really needs to be told what to do.
Yeah, man, that's so true, because my first few months of coming out and figuring out were awful, because all of my friends that I could talk about this were pretty much online, which is great. I'm glad I had them, but it's this. It's different talking to somebody online than it is having a conversation.
It's hard out there.
And some of you guys have watched the show, you know that I had Ocean on, who is a pagan, and we talked about this kind of stuff. And I am happy. I'm so happy I get to be friends with Ocean. because we end up agreeing on more things than we disagree on. And I don't have to have the same beliefs as him in order to live a good life. And that's why Ocean is also coming to Faithless Forum next week, which is cool because it is an atheist conference and he's hanging out just because he's part of the community, man. He's a staple figure. So yeah, I enjoy having the discussions of how people think something is true, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to lose my mind over it. I think there are some people who do a purist.
And it wears me out. But on some level, I'm like, go be well, be happy. I got a bunch of people here. We're trying to figure out how to build a good life based on a common understanding of the world. And that's hard enough. So like, y'all go do you.